Welcome to the May edition of The Compliance Life. This month I visit with Mark Beyer. Mark is the Chief Compliance Officer at the Pedernales Electrical Cooperative in the Hill Country of Texas. It is the largest electrical distribution cooperative in the United States. Mark has a very non-traditional background and journey to the CCO chair. He also has developed a compliance toolkit that he's learned in his various jobs leading up to his role as the CCO. I know you'll enjoy this month. In this part 2, Mark discusses moving over to Baker Hughes.
The Compliance Life details the journey to and in the role of a Chief Compliance Officer. How does one come to sit in the CCO chair? What are some of the skills a CCO needs to successfully navigate the compliance waters in any company? What are some of the top challenges CCOs have faced, and how did they meet them? These questions and many others will be explored in this new podcast series. The Compliance Life is hosted by Tom Fox, and each month he'll present the story of one CCO through 4 episodes. The Compliance Life is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
We're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with Mark Beyer on The Compliance Life. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for episode 2 in this month's 4-part exploration of The Compliance Life. Today, we have back with us Mark Beyer, and on this episode, we're going to talk about Mark's move into the oilfield services world. So, Mark, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So, Mark, you detailed for us in our last episode your work at Lockheed, but you moved on from Lockheed. So, could you tell us where you went, and why you made the move, and what some of the challenges you faced at your new company or found at your new company that really helped you to learn to expand a risk management program?
Yeah, so Lockheed, like I said last time, it was a lot of great experience. Was really enjoying it. A lot of good stories, but I chose to leave at the time. I really wanted a new challenge from a career standpoint. I wanted to kind of, oddly enough, get more risk, grow, or get into an environment that had more risk, so that we can really kind of test, from a compliance standpoint. So at Lockheed, it was government contracts. The power of the government was with you. The umbrella of NASA. The narrow scope in terms of compliance risk, because it was really moving items that were ultimately ending up in the space station. So it was things to support the crew and things like that. And so I really wanted to, like I said, grow risk. So I was given the opportunity to go over to Baker Hughes, which is in oilfield services. Very large, at the time, publicly traded company. This was before all the mergers and acquisition activity that occurred. Publicly traded company coming off government, monitor, and so the program was kind of in a transition period in terms of leadership and kind of where it fit into the organization. Ellen Smith came in as the trade compliance director, and she was really my kind of next big mentor in my career. She trusted me to help her build the program there at Baker Hughes, the trade compliance program. I came on my role there was a trade compliance program manager, so it's kind of a unique role, I think, at the time, at least, in terms of trade compliance programs. I didn't, do export licensing or customs compliance work or any of that kind of thing. What I did was manage and develop and design the program of how we all kind of fit in together and how we all fit in with the organization. And so, that's like things like training development and training rollout, messaging and communications, procedure development, system ownership and system development, process improvements, all those types of things that help, the individuals that do the export licensing, that process, customs activity, that do sanctions reviews, all that, make their jobs hopefully as easy as possible or as efficient as possible, and where they can kind of seamlessly fit into the business.
We've had the opportunity to have Ellen on the Compliance Live. And so I get to ask you this question. What was it like to work for and with Ellen?
Ellen's great. I mean, she's a friend and a mentor even to this day. I learned a tremendous amount from her. The most important thing was really how to build a program. Compliance, we tend to think about rules and processes and procedures and all that, and documentation, but that's not really what a program is. Building a program, the importance of building a program rather than just implementing rules is what I got from Ellen. We started, we put together, a trade compliance, what we called playbook at the time, which basically was a way to convey trade compliance expectations, standards, rules, that kind of thing, specifically to targeted functions and departments rather than kind of overall policy, typical policy management. So giving IT only what IT needs to know in order to ensure they're following the rules, giving finance only what they need to know in order for them to follow the rules, that kind of thing. It was very successful, received very well, and that's how that's how I learned how you get buy-in from the business is to really think through a program and design and build a program to the organization. And Ellen was a big part of me learning that experience, having that experience.
Mark, also one of the key people at Baker Hughes was then Chief Compliance Officer Jay Martin. And Jay has been a mentor to many of us, people who worked at Baker Hughes, and indeed Houston and the U.S. Full compliance. And so I was wondering if you could talk about, did you have the chance to expand your program knowledge to other areas such as anti-bribery, anti-corruption, and what was it kind of that? I guess what was it like at Baker under Jay as the Chief Compliance Officer?
Yeah, so Jay was there when I was there, and I was, like I said, lucky enough to be trusted by Ellen and Jay to, I guess, expand beyond my role in trade compliance and to really help out in the anti-bribery, anti-corruption, third-party due diligence, all that, that side of the house as well, where I could, mostly from a process improvement standpoint. Now, Jay and the legal leadership at the time, like I said, was coming off some monitor requirements that we had prior. And it was really kind of time to look at the program in kind of a new light, I think. And so it was kind of a way to take my Lean Six Sigma background, where by the way, I kind of advanced that at Baker Hughes, also being a manufacturer. Baker Hughes is where I got my next level of that, which was called a black belt. Terminology they use to show, I guess, knowledge in the field. But I used my Lean Six Sigma experience to kind of help streamline some processes in the anti-bribery, third-party due diligence processes, and it was eye-opening because that's really the place to be in that field. Oil and gas is really the place to be when it comes to that, and I think I achieved my goal early on of getting a little bit more risk and getting exposed to a little bit more experiences when I moved to Baker, and I really appreciate that opportunity that Jay and Ellen gave me to grow.
Mark, I practiced in Houston for over 30 years and 35 years, and I was around a lot of lawyers, both in private practice and in-house, who worked in the aerospace and space industry, whether they worked for NASA, whether they worked like yourself for Lockheed Martin. And I was always on the energy or oilfield side of things. And it always struck me that people that, particularly in the space administration and space type work, like you've described at Lockheed, really had a lot of pride in their work because they felt like they were really doing something for the U.S. space effort. And so I wanted to ask you, one, is that observation true? And then was it different when you moved to Baker? Not to suggest that oil field service work is not important,
because I certainly felt like it was. But it just always struck me that the people who worked at NASA and those who were contractors for NASA really had a little bit different kind of perspective on things. And I was wondering if you might say a few words about that.
That's right. So, in my experience, Lockheed, you really grow, you really become part of the mission, and they make it very easy to feel that way by the positions that organizations like NASA or Lockheed or whoever put their employees in, and kind of the way they treat employees. And so you really do feel like you are contributing to bettering, to improving, things from a scientific perspective or from an exploration perspective or whatever it is. And so, while I played one role in a very large system to get things up to the space station so that astronauts can perform the work up there, you truly felt that you had a role, and that was really important. When I moved to Baker, oil and gas, very important. It's a lifeblood of how our economy works. Definitely not a negative to that in any way, but you're right. You feel different. You feel less, I guess, of kind of that positive mission oriented feeling. I'd say it's just very different. Helping get people in space and research done in space, to producing oil tools and oil drilling fluids and things to oil fields across the globe. So a very different feeling, and that's one reason why I ultimately ended up choosing to leave Baker.
You articulated it in a way that I think really resonated with me. It seems like when you were at Lockheed, and you specifically said this, you were part of the mission, and Lockheed was a part of the NASA mission, and really that message and that corporate ethos was with you throughout what you did. When I was at Halliburton and other oilfield service companies, I felt like I was a part of a commercial operation, and I certainly was very motivated by that. But I was doing commercial contracts, and I didn't have that sense of mission. So I think maybe that's the difference. You really did have a sense of mission at Lockheed. Mark, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this second episode, but I hope our listeners will join us again in our next episode, where we talk about your next move to a medical device company. But before we leave, if our listeners wanted any more information on yourself or any of the topics you've touched on, what would be the best way for them to find out?
Yeah, they can go to my LinkedIn profile, or they can email me if they have any questions or want to chat. Mark.Beyer at peci.com.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. Thank you again for listening to this episode of The Compliance Life. I hope you will join me again next week, where I take up another episode in The Compliance Life. The Compliance Life is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. If you would like to be featured on The Compliance Life, please give me an email at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. Also, if you like this series, please give us a rating on iTunes. Any review and rating would definitely help get the word out about the latest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network. Thanks again.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.